There's two complaints I often hear from software engineers about their managers. The first is, what the hell does my manager even do? The second is, my manager doesn't care about my career and my one-on-ones are a waste of time. Today we're going to talk about the second ones, how to get the most out of your one-on-ones with your manager. If you're not already doing this today, you are wasting the single most valuable mechanism you have to affect your career and to make sure things move forward the way they should. Hi, I'm John Miller, the Deliberate Engineer. I spent 30 years working as a software engineer in big tech and other places, including at Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Oracle, and several others. I was a manager for 13 of those years and a principal engineer for 15 of them. Over those years, I had a ton of different managers myself. In fact, the worst single stint that I had was 18 months where I had 6 different managers. As you can imagine, when your managers change, or even just when you're working with the same manager for a while, it's critical to keep them up to speed with what you're doing and make sure that they can adequately represent you when the need arises. A regular one-on-one is probably the best mechanism to do this. For the rest of this video, we're going to talk about what you should be thinking about and what you should do to have great one-on-ones with your manager and why they're important to your career. My first manager at Microsoft told me that I had to own my own career, that I was responsible for making sure the right things happened with it. Now, he was a great manager. He always looked out for me. He always did the right things for me. But he was preparing me for the time when he wouldn't be my manager anymore, and I would have to watch out for myself. Most managers aren't as conscientious as my first manager was. It's not that they don't care about their employees. It's that a given manager often has 80 hours of work to try and squeeze into a 40-hour work that they actually work 60 hours on. Even with their best intentions, lots of things drop off the bottom. If you're somebody who's a quiet, conscientious worker who never complains, then you're not a problem that needs to get fixed, and inevitably you wind up getting less attention than you deserve. You need to own your career and make sure the right things are happening. Your one-on-one is your primary mechanism to get guaranteed face time with the person who's responsible for promoting you, for representing your accomplishments up the management chain, and in general, protecting you from bad things that may be coming down the chain, and make sure that your manager at any given time understands what you're doing, can justify it, and can speak up and give you praise. Ideally, you should have a weekly one-on-one with your manager. It should be scheduled for the same time and day each week, and it should be something that both of you attend. You shouldn't miss your one-on-one more than once a month, and if you do, you should give advance notice to your manager that you're not going to make it. Be respectful of their time. If you find yourself canceling your one-on-ones and having them less frequently than every week, let's say you only do it once a month, that in itself is a symptom of a career that might potentially be in trouble. So you should take a closer look at that and think why you're not doing things that are important enough to discuss with your manager. Before each one-on-one, make sure that you're prepared for it. Take a look at your list of things that you did over the past week, what you intended to do and what you actually got done, and jot down a few notes to yourself. I usually took a little sticky note and just wrote 2-word summaries of the main bullet points I wanted to hit in the meeting. This lets me make sure that in the heat of discussion, I don't wind up forgetting about important things that I want to bring up with my manager. It also helps the meeting flow more quickly and be more useful. When you meet with your manager, tell them succinctly what you accomplished over that last work. Not a mind-numbing hourly time log of what you did, but instead what you accomplished. New skills that you might have learned that might be worth sharing with the rest of the team, things that you move forward, or problems that you identified. If you're blocked, don't just say you're blocked and wait for your manager to do something about it. Whenever you identify a problem, do your best to come with a proposed solution to it. Even a bad proposed solution is better than no solution at all. So don't just come saying, I'm still waiting for Bob to deliver the API, send him a mail, and nothing happened. Say, what I'm going to do to try and get unblocked is actually go to his office, and if that doesn't work, I'll escalate to his manager and see if I can move things forward. If you need your manager's help to get unblocked, make sure you call it out crisply. For example, I might say, Bob is too busy to help out, but we really need these APIs. So we need Alice, his manager, to make time for him to be able to work on it. Would you be willing to talk to Alice and get her commitment that Bob can make this API his top priority in the next 2 weeks? The one-on-one doesn't have to go the full scheduled time. It's really just to make sure that you guys get together and there's enough time for you to talk about the things that are important. When you're wrapping up the one-on-one, reiterate the things that you're going to work on for the week moving forward and the decisions that you understand from the one-on-one. This helps keep you from having misunderstandings that can bloom up into bigger problems down the line. Ideally, you should make a note of these things that you're committing to and that you decided in the one-on-one. You don't necessarily have to share it with your manager, but it's good to squirrel it away somewhere so that you'll be able to prepare for your next one-on-one, and also so that you can look back to it when review time comes and see the list of things that you thought were significant. In addition to these contents for your regular one-on-ones, you should also have things that you do every month. For example, every month you should check with your boss and explicitly ask, how am I doing? How are things going? Is there anything I should keep doing? Is there anything that you'd like me to do differently or start learning how to do? This gives an explicit request for feedback. Your boss will engage, think about it, and give you that feedback. You want to make sure that you circle back around to this in subsequent one-on-ones, explaining what you did with that feedback and how you addressed it. Every 3 to 6 months in your one-on-ones, you want to have an explicit career discussion. So you should already be familiar with the requirements for your current level and for the next salary level trying to reach at the company. Given that, you should have an idea of the things that you explicitly have to work on. So you should tell your boss, hey, how am I doing towards demonstrating these things that you said I need to demonstrate to make progress towards the next level? If you have things that you're doing to try and meet the requirements or expectations for the next level, make sure you bring those up and say, I was doing this and this. Is this the sort of thing that you wanted to see me demonstrating? By having this explicit discussion with your manager, you're making sure that they're thinking in their head about what it's going to take for you to get to the next level. It's easy for that to slip a manager's mind in the midst of everything else going on. Even though it shouldn't, it happens. By having this conversation, they can make their own sort of list in their mind of the things you need to demonstrate and at what scale you need to demonstrate. This in turn means that they'll have the ammunition they need when promotion discussions come up. For example, let's say that one of the requirements was you should have a significant body of new code work that's deployed to the development environment. Then you might say in one of your one-on-ones, by the way, I got my API done and it's deployed not only to the development environment but to the production environment, and it's being used by 2 different teams. Again, this is just giving explicit details about the sort of things that are going to make it easy to justify your promotion and your career advancement. Now, as engineers, we like to think that there's absolute value to the things that we do and that that value is self-evident. In some cases this is true, but more typically it requires a certain amount of knowledge and understanding of both the process of creating that thing and the value of it in order for somebody to be able to really recognize it. Treat it as your job to help interpret that for your boss. Don't count on them going and reading through your code reviews and your specs and all this thing. It might happen, or they might just skim about it and forget it. Instead, you want to have the discussion with them that shows the kind of thought you put into it and make sure that they recognize the value. Let's sum up the things that make a good one-on-one. First, you should have an agenda before the one-on-one, a short crib list of the things that you want to discuss and the things that you accomplished over the last week and whether or not you achieved the things that you were meaning to do. Whenever you identify a problem that needs to be solved, don't just let the problem sit there. Come with a proposal for how to solve the problem, and if you need your manager's help escalating, say very crisply and very explicitly what you'd like them to do. Then you can have a discussion at that point about whether that's the right thing to do or not. But coming with an idea of what should be done is much better than just coming and throwing up your hands. It's a sign of maturity. After your one-on-one, jot down a list of your recollections and notes. It doesn't have to be anything more than a couple 2 or 3 word sentences or maybe a paragraph of information. But put it someplace you won't forget about it and then refer back to it for your next one-on-one, and as well when you have career discussions or when the next annual review comes around to make it easier to write your review. At least once a month, ask explicitly how you're doing, what you should keep doing or do more of, and anything that you need to start doing that you're not. Have a career-related discussion at least every 6 months that talks about how you are progressing towards the next level and the things you need to demonstrate and what you can already sort of say, I've done a good enough job, I just need to keep doing it at the level that I'm doing it. And above all, remember, your manager is a human being who's probably overloaded, who has a ton of different things they have to do. Never assume that your manager doesn't like you. Never assume they don't value your work if you're not getting positive feedback. To massacre an old saying, never attribute to malice what can be explained by your manager being overloaded. Did I miss anything important in this list of things you should do for your one-on-ones? Is there any advice you don't agree with or anything that you think people should be doing in a slightly different way? I'd love to hear your suggestions down below, so please leave a comment. Thanks for making it this far in the video, and as always, keep on pushing forward. Hi, this is John. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please think about subscribing so you get notified of my future videos. Also, if you are interested, you might want to check out the video I have linked here. Thanks, and
keep on pushing forward.